near Albuquerque.
Yeah, over here it's 11 p.m., but it's okay. I sleep very late.
As most Brazilians do.
Yeah, yeah. The first time that we talked, I remember that it's very late for me here when we
Yeah.
talked on Link.
So did we? So we spoke on the phone on Lingby.
Yeah.
I talked to so many people on Lingby, it's hard to remember all the different conversations. Can you help me remember?
Yeah, I remember. I think over here it was 1 a.m. already when we talked because I work at night and sometimes I don't sleep very well.
You're not the
I
police
work
officer.
at Sorry?
You're not the police officer, are you?
No, I work at the hotel. I'm receptionist.
Okay. Yeah, it's ringing a bell. I have a journal where I write down the names of all the people I talk to. Let me see if I wrote your name down. Sometimes I forget. I'm not the best. I probably didn't write it. I write probably 1 out of every 5 people, just to try to give me a chance at remembering who I talked to. Let's see, I think I've done better. And man, where is my list? What's going on here? But yeah, sorry. So then you contacted me and you're like, I actually have a channel too.
Yeah, when we talked and I saw in your profile on Linkbee profile, I saw your link on YouTube, and I thought, oh my God, I have a YouTube channel. He also has, and we can do a video together, make a video together.
Yeah. No, so how long has your channel been around?
I think 2 years, 3 years, because when I started, it's not so. I just posted to inspire people to talk to of native speakers, but after this, I just look at with another vision, another view, because nowadays people are doing like a professional career YouTuber, and people are making a lot of money with that. And right now, I'm trying to do more something like a professional. But sometimes it's complicated, man. It's not so easy. We need to have a good creativity to make content. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, for me, my channel is more for just the benefit of like having a reason to or a way to really use all my languages and to inspire people, because trying to actually make a career out of it for me just seems really hard, so that's why I'm not really doing it that way. But right now, with the way the world is, like during the pandemic, it's like I don't think there's a better time to try to do something like this. Like,
Yes, of course.
so many people are, stuck at home watching things, and so it is a great time to try to be involved in this for sure.
Yes, of course. Because when I started, I remember that because there are a lot of people like the mine channel on Cambly. Do you don't know Cambly? Do you know?
So only through your channel. I have never used it. I don't quite grasp the concept. Is it similar to Italki? Is it similar to Lingby? What's it sort of like?
Yeah, it's basically it's like what we are doing right now. Call you. It's make a call video. Is it
A video call? Yep.
video call? Yeah, and you talk to a native teachers. And I remember when I knew Cambly, I watched a lot of videos, Brazilians, and sometimes I thought by myself, "Oh, it's so cool you talk to a native speaker because it's not easy, man. There are a lot of people learning language in Brazil. It's most common English, but to speak is something like oh my God. People learn years, 3 years, 4 years, but to speak, to face by face a foreigner, people stuck.
Yeah.
And if for you understand, when I downloaded Cambly, I Cambly was on my cell phone 3, 4, 5 months, and when you download it, you earn 5 minutes, more or less, 15 minutes to try. And I didn't use it because I had this fear, this trauma to, oh my God, no, it's not for me to
Yeah.
speak to a native, no. And one day I was uh, at the college, and my professor, my teacher, and he said, I will send for you, my students, a book called The Power of Subconscious.
Hmm. Sounds like a book.
Subconscious mind. And yeah, and I started to read this book and uh, to understand how it works, and to think about negative things. If I had this concept, oh, never ever I will speak to a native speaker, this will happen because I will feed this thought,
Yeah.
and when I start to read, and one day was very late, I decided to try, and I talked for 5 minutes to a native speaker, native teacher. Was something incredible, and sometimes I saw this video and I thought, oh my God, how I did it. But it's we have a lot of things that sometimes we don't do because the fear, the many feelings that we feed, and this stuck us. But when you do what you have fear, the fear looks like it's more easiest,
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So I guess I don't get how Cambly is different from Italki. Are you familiar with Italki? Do you know Italki?
Oh yeah, it's similar.
It's similar. Okay. So is Cambly more for English, or is it for any language?
It's English only. I
English
don't know
only.
if Yeah, I don't know if there another application, but on Cambly it's just English.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a big part. Like the topics that you listed for our conversation, like learning at home, learning by yourself. Yeah, having something like Cambly, something where you can get in contact with natives, is really important. Um,
Yeah. And so, Richard, how many languages do you speak?
so, counting English, I speak four. I speak Spanish and Portuguese and French, and then English. I've studied German and Romanian, but not far enough to actually speak them. And then Italian's a language I can understand without even studying it. I just can understand it because of the other languages I know, but I don't speak it at all. But yeah, so I only say I speak. I say I'm fluent in Spanish and Portuguese, and French is a language that I was once conversant in, never really fluent, even though I've studied it for almost my whole life, but I haven't used it enough. So it's more like spoken French. I can tell I'm not fluent. Written and like reading, I'm fluent, but not spoken. And that's because I learned it at school. I didn't learn it like by myself, like I learned Portuguese. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah. In our conversation, you said me then you intend to go in Brazil this year. Uh,
Uh,
is it okay, or because of pandemic, it's not will happen?
so sadly, so I have a friend who's also fluent in Portuguese, and sadly, 2 days ago, we canceled our trip. We He needed to free up. Anyways, the point is, we were 3 months away. So our trip was planned for like October, beginning October, right? And yeah, so a little bit over 3 months away. And we realized that probably it's not the best time to go, so we're gonna postpone it. Yeah, I'm pretty bummed, pretty sad about that. I really hope that things improve in Brazil, not just for me to visit, but obviously for Brazil itself. And so hopefully things turn around in the next few months, and then maybe 2022 can be a better year.
Yeah, it's so crazy these times that we're living, and but that's it. Fingers crossed.
Yes, exactly.
Next year.
Yeah.
And do you use a lot of applications to, or just only Linkbee to talk?
So I mean, I've tried a lot. I so I was one of those people that was using Duolingo a lot for years,
Yeah.
thinking it was helping me, but realizing not so much. Like I wasted years of my life using Duolingo. And in hindsight,
Yeah.
I mean, that was back obviously before the pandemic. And so it might have been harder to get in contact with native speakers. Like with everybody being, in isolation, it's really easy to talk to people around the world right now. Before, I don't know if Lingbee would have worked as well 2, 3 years ago. But yeah, so I used Duolingo a lot, but I have completely thrown it aside. I don't use Duolingo at all anymore. And aside from that, I'm much more just a podcast person. I just love listening to podcasts for authentic content. Um, for other podcasts, I started using Italki for French because I'm trying to learn Quebecois French, Canadian French, and there's nobody on Lingbee that speaks Canadian French really. So I'm using Italki for that. Other apps, I have language specific apps. I have an app for Argentine Spanish. I have an app for like they're just very specific, but they're not ones that we would want to talk about because nobody's gonna know them. So it's really just Duolingo, Lingbee, and Italki. Those are the three that I've used in my life. And then
Yeah.
sorry, I should also mention like Anki, like a flashcard app. I'm not a big flashcard person. In fact, I've never used a flashcard in my life in Portuguese, but I do see a way they can be useful, but I think people misuse them a lot. So that's another topic. But yeah, Anki is another app that I'm familiar with. Flashcards, right?
Yeah, flashcard I don't use as well because I tried when I started to learn English because there are a lot of people speaking about it, flashcards, and I downloaded Enki. Do you know Enki
Yeah, and
application?
that's what I'm saying. Anki, yeah.
Yeah. I downloaded and I used it some month, but after this I didn't enjoy. I prefer to get immersed to because I think when all the time consuming the language, it's something that it's automatically you will learn.
Yeah.
And I think people, there's no a rule to learn a new language. You need to see what you like, what is most interesting for you, what you learn easier, and what you enjoy. For example, if you like uh, to watch football, watching the language that you are learning, and so on. And I try to do that. A while ago, I started to learn Chinese, but I'm not so motivated currently because it's difficult, man. I use a Duolingo, and I think another problem that we have nowadays, it's a lot of things, and sometimes uh, this won't happen,
Yeah.
this it disturbs because we don't focus in only one two application, or we need you get anxiety. We need anxious too. Oh my god, I have 15 applications on my cell phone to learn a new language. I don't know how which I will use.
Yeah.
We need there's a polyglot called Stephen Kaufman. Do you know?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I saw a video of him. Then he because he's a seer already, and when years ago he used CDs, DVDs, flash card, but in paper.
Oh yeah.
It's something that, and I thought by myself, oh my God, when you want to learn something, you learn wherever what you have in your hands, you use to learn. And sometimes nowadays, we have a lot of things and disturbs to learn.
Yeah, no, you said a lot of things that are 100% true for me, at least the way I feel. Yeah, having too many options, too many things, you're not focused on something. And yeah, like you said at the beginning, it has to be something that you enjoy. Like if flashcards, if you don't enjoy that, you're gonna give up. And yeah, I'm totally on board with the idea of the natural language, the natural way of learning, of lots of input, lots of content, and not like forced learning with flashcards. Like just by listening to a ton, you're going to acquire that vocab. And the important thing to remember is we use, I'm trying to remember the exact stats. I can't remember the exact stat, but we use way more words in written language than we do in spoken language. Like our vocabulary is so much bigger in written language than spoken language. And so if your goal is to be a great writer or to be able to read anything, you probably need flashcards because you need to memorize a ton of words that you're never going to hear. But if your goal is to speak to people and to really be able to communicate verbally, you don't need that big of a vocab. I mean, yeah, you can impress somebody every once in a while with a fancy word, but you don't really need it unless you're speaking like in front of a formal setting where you're trying to speak eloquently. But most of the time, your vocabulary is much narrower in spoken language. And so for me, that's why I don't feel like I need flashcards, because I'm just trying to reproduce what I hear native speakers speaking and not what is actually the entire vocab or the entire dictionary of that language, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, I think there are a lot of myth when we speak about to learn a new language. I I always see a lot of people thinking, oh, I need to speak like as a native speaker. I need to speak. I can have an accent. I need to, and I think this is not real. The most important is communication.
Mm-hmm.
We are learning a second language is something very hard because Man, you was born you were born and speaking all your life a certain language, and suddenly your brain start to detect a strange are surrounded. And uh, I watched a video when a Brazilian philosopher, he lives in US, and he said, I don't believe in this theory and you need to think in the language that you are learning. And he said, I live in US 20 years and I can't do that because I think even in Portuguese and try to translate this process to translate in our mind. And what do you think about it? It's possible to thinking as I'm Brazilian, but I'm living in US. Oh, now I'm US. I will think as an American. Do you think it's possible to think in English, to think in Portuguese, to think in French?
So that's interesting, and maybe requires a bit of clarification because um, first off, to live in another country, you don't have to live in another country to learn a language. Just wanted to say that real quick. But yes, I know it's possible to think in another language. When I you know, speak in Spanish, I don't think at all in English. When I speak in Portuguese, I don't think at all in English. When I think in French, I don't think in English, though sometimes I find myself trying to come up with a word and then I can't, and so I have to translate, but that's pretty rare. So yeah, I definitely think you can think and you need to think in another language. That's 100% the way I think language works. Um, but if it means change your way of thinking, like to, I don't know if you meant to start thinking like an American, like seeing the world in a different way. That is a harder question to answer. But yeah, I think if you're still thinking, I think the definition of fluent is when you no longer are thinking in your native language. When you are no longer translating. I equivalent fluent with fluidity. Like when you're speaking fluidly because you're not translating, you're not pausing every second. It just flows. For me, that's the definition of fluent. And and so yeah, I think you have to think in that language to ever reach that level. But I don't know. Is that what you meant by your question? Like to think in one language and translate versus just naturally going directly to the language you're
Uh,
learning?
because sometimes it's something strange, and I think when we speak a lot, we you practice, you practice, and that's definitely something that practice makes perfect, you know. And we practice, and your brain works very well. But sometimes we we speak, for example, in Portuguese, there are a lot of mistakes that I commit because I try to say something in English, but using the Portuguese rules, you know. And sometimes this is not correct because it's another language. There are a lot of ways to speak, and sometimes I translate as a Google translator in my mind. I translate in a very poor meaning, and I say, and sometimes it's not. But I think as well is a also is a question of practice and expose in the language that you are learning, and the most you because I realized that sometimes I'm watching a movie and I'm understanding very well. Sometimes I get very proud of myself. Oh my God, I'm understanding a lot of things. But I noticed that when I try to, my speaking is not the same level that my listening, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But because I don't practice in the same level I listen my speaking, because I listen